Within the magnificent palaces of Europe's greatest kingdoms, where precious gems adorned silk gowns and rulers exchanged confidences under ornate crystal fixtures, a silent destroyer crept unseen. It traveled through intimate encounters rather than combat zones, carried no blade, yet toppled monarchs, empresses, and complete royal lineages. This wasn't an enemy army or domestic uprising, it was something far more personal and devastating. A caress, an embrace, one evening of secret passion, that's all it required. The aftermath brought not merely individual destruction, but governmental collapse. Royal unions dissolved, successors vanished. Noble bloodlines descended into turmoil. Sovereigns draped in magnificence and attended by the finest doctors discovered themselves powerless, humbled by an illness that recognized no status and honored no royal authority. It brought forth deformity, insanity, sterility, and mortality. Most tragically, it raised haunting possibilities. How different might our past have unfolded if particular monarchs had reigned longer, if certain queens had given birth to male heirs, if specific successors had never existed. This is the hidden narrative of how Syphilis, known as the Great Deceiver, accomplished more than physical destruction. It altered history's trajectory from within royal residences. These are the concealed epidemics of nobility, the disease that governed those who governed. Lorenzo de Medici entered the world as heir to Renaissance Italy's most influential family, a lineage that had created pontiffs, leaders, and supporters of brilliance. With Pope Leo X as his relative, Lorenzo received military command and successfully captured the Duchy of Urbino through calculated brutality. Yet military triumphs often bring unseen adversaries. Warriors of that era, Lorenzo included, lived intensely and frequently found solace with prostitutes. Mere decades following syphilis's initial outbreak throughout Europe, the ailment had become a lethal phantom lurking behind achievement. Following his territorial conquest, Lorenzo wed the aristocratic French lady Madeleine de la Tour d'Auvergne. Their marriage, though brief, bore fruit with daughter Catherine, destined to rule France. However, their happiness proved fleeting. Madeleine perished merely 2 weeks post-delivery. Lorenzo died days afterward, ill and defeated at 26. Their child, abandoned and confined to a monastery during political chaos, would emerge from adversity to become one of Europe's most powerful rulers, Catherine de Medici. The plague that destroyed her parents had inadvertently transformed France's destiny. Ascending to power at 9, Abbas II commanded fully by 15, inaugurating one of Persia's most glorious eras. His rule gleamed with wealth. Commerce flourished. Artists thrived. The imperial court reveled in luxury, wine, and continuous celebrations. Abbas earned renown for his magnetism, intelligence, and acceptance. He drank from jeweled golden chalices, gifts from Russia's emperor, while his triumphs over Mughal and Russian forces established his reputation as a mighty leader. Yet beneath his court's splendor, darkness approached, one no crown could repel: syphilis. As the condition gradually advanced, the formerly dynamic Shah retreated. His famous gatherings diminished. His genius dimmed. At 34, Abbas vanished from public view, alone, suffering and overwhelmed by sickness. His passing signified more than a monarch's loss. It marked Persia's golden age. An empire's deterioration commenced not through warfare or revolt, but through its ruler's internal collapse. Within Charles II's indulgent restoration court, none shone brighter or fell further than John Wilmot, Earl of Rochester. A distinguished military hero, brilliant wordsmith, and infamous pleasure-seeker, Rochester existed for enjoyment. He was the monarch's companion, theatre favourite, and legend throughout every establishment from Whitehall to Covent Garden. Yet behind his sharp humour and irresistible appeal, something sinister worked. Syphilis, widespread in Restoration London, was already corrupting his flesh and spirit. For years he concealed symptoms through cleverness and alcohol, but the disease proved merciless. By his early 30s, Rochester's genius had vanished. The attractive rake now appeared grotesque, his nose destroyed, vision gone, body weak and deteriorating. Once the court's centerpiece, he spent his final days isolated, tormented by agony and disgrace. His death at 33 transcended personal catastrophe. It symbolized the era's hollow hedonism. Rochester had pursued excess, and ultimately it devoured him entirely. Joseph I embodied everything a young ruler should possess: height, charm, and potential. With keen intelligence and forward-thinking attitudes, he introduced contemporary elements to the Habsburg court's ancient halls. Yet beneath the majestic facade lived a man motivated by power and pleasure alike. From noble women to common girls, Joseph's romantic pursuits became European gossip. His passion for affairs was notorious, as were the repercussions. During his youthful excess, he acquired syphilis, unknowingly transmitting it to Empress Wilhelmina Amalia. The outcome proved catastrophic. The Empress, once hopeful for bearing successors, became barren. Dreams of secure male inheritance crumbled, along with Habsburg stability. When Joseph suddenly died at 32, not from syphilis but smallpox, the empire faced crisis. Brother Charles VI assumed the throne, but the absent male heir triggered political reactions, erupting into the War of Austrian Succession, a conflict rooted not in military strategy or philosophy, but in diseases, private devastation. Kingship was never his intended destiny. Louis I, Queen Maria II's second son, favored verse over governance, Shakespeare over diplomacy. A contemplative spirit with academic inclinations, he spent his youth translating English works and courting inspiration rather than politicians. But destiny intervened. When the disease swept the royal household, claiming his elder brother and younger siblings, Louis suddenly inherited power. The scholarly prince became king, reluctantly yet faithfully. Publicly, he projected cultured respectability. Privately, the tale differed. Rumors pursued him through Lisbon's corridors. Secret relationships, actresses, and encounters with women far beyond royal acceptability. Along this concealed journey, Louis contracted syphilis. For years it lay dormant, but eventually symptoms returned brutally. Neurological deterioration emerged. Depression clouded his formerly gentle character. Pain overwhelmed him. Those nearest the king witnessed his decline, physically and mentally, as disease slowly destroyed his intellect. When he died at 50, the poet-king, who once captivated Europe with wit and sophistication, was unrecognizable. His reign, culturally and linguistically rich, concluded under suffering's shadow, his brilliance extinguished by silently carried plague. He represented Habsburg greatness. Emperor Franz Joseph and legendary Empress Elizabeth's only son, globally known as Sisi. Yet behind Austro-Hungarian court grandeur, Rudolf matured in solitude, weighed by expectations and haunted by profound sadness. Early on, he rejected his father's empire's strict customs. Sensitive, brilliant, and progressive, Rudolf found no courtly satisfaction. Instead, he sought darker consolation, liquor, brief affairs, and dangerous pursuits. Soon his indulgences claimed their price. Rudolf received diagnoses of both syphilis and gonorrhea, diseases ravaging the body and mind. Cruelly, he infected his wife, Princess Stephanie of Belgium, leaving her unable to bear additional children. Habsburg hopes for future heirs died not in battle, but intimately. As health failed, so did mental stability. Paranoia, violent temperament changes, and romantic delusions consumed him. Death-obsessed and despair-driven, Rudolf withdrew from public life, his condition known yet unmentioned. Then Mayerling arrived. In 1889, Rudolf isolated himself at his hunting retreat with his 17-year-old mistress, Baroness Mary Wetzera. There, amid thick desperation, he shot her before killing himself. The royal court frantically concealed the truth, claiming aneurysm, forging correspondence, and burying facts with their prince. But damage was complete. The Mayerling tragedy shocked Europe, not merely a crown prince's loss, but a dynasty's unraveling. Rudolf's death created a succession void, haunting the empire until World War I's collapse. A dynasty founded on tradition and image had been destroyed by illness, secrecy, and grief in a family renowned for strict propriety and imperial dignity. Archduke Otto Franz distinguished himself negatively. Dubbed the Habsburg dynasty's disgrace, Otto scandalized the royal court with thoroughly unprincipled behavior. He gained notoriety for outrageous acts, disrupting formal events unclothed, bursting into women's chambers wearing only a blade, and openly displaying relationships with prostitutes and performers. Some considered him amusing, others a threat to monarchical dignity. Behind the rebel was a man slowly being internally destroyed. In his mid-30s, Otto contracted syphilis, the same disease already shadowing Europe's royal houses. Initially, he attempted ignorance, hiding symptoms through travel, drink, and diversions. But advanced syphilis shows no compassion. His condition rapidly worsened. Painful sores and neurological symptoms emerged. The most shocking manifestation occurred when the disease consumed facial portions, requiring a rubber prosthetic nose for public appearances. For someone who once craved attention, it represented ultimate degradation. Disgraced, sick, and unwelcome at court, Otto withdrew from public life. At 41, he was gone, his legacy reduced to scandal, shame, and sorrow. Had he lived longer, he might have claimed the throne. But fate and disease determined otherwise. The Habsburg monarchy would persist, but its foundations were already decaying. Just over a decade following Otto's death, the empire itself would crumble, its fall hastened by personal tragedies of men like him. They adorned golden crowns, controlled empires, and governed millions. Yet beneath the silks and royal symbols, they harbored secret anguish. Syphilis, as quiet as it was brutal, exempted no throne. It infiltrated royal chambers undetected, transforming not merely lives, but national destinies. This transcended medical emergency. It was an invisible power rewriting dynastic succession, terminating bloodlines, and influencing European history more profoundly than any weapon. From Florence's candlelit palaces to Vienna's brilliant courts, syphilis moved like a spectre. Its victims are too powerful to acknowledge vulnerability, too human to escape consequences. Yet for centuries no remedy existed. Only suffering, only disgrace, only deterioration. That changed when a forgotten laboratory dish transformed everything. In 1928, Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin through a fortunate accident, revolutionizing medicine. Finally, the silent assassin that had tormented royalty for generations could be defeated. But for those monarchs who preceded, the cure arrived far too late. Syphilis didn't merely destroy bodies, it reshaped empires. In doing so, it became royal history's most influential yet invisible force.